Okay, guys, welcome back to another stream. First of all, if you're in Europe, Happy New Year's Eve. For the Americans, it's not your time yet. Well, depending on the time zone. Um, but Happy New Year's Eve to everyone. Today we have a really fun stream scheduled. We shall be talking about Dior by JW Anderson. We shall be talking about Marty Supreme. We'll be talking about some garment laws in the EU. And of course, Neelam Ahooja essentially addressing the whole issue with the row. So this should be really good. This should be really good. Oh, did I say New Year's Eve? Yeah, Christmas Eve, sorry. That's funny. If I said New Year's Eve, I meant Christmas Eve. Thank you very much for the person saying nice hat. That little piano got IO time traveling. That's hilarious. That's so funny. How's everyone doing? My apologies, by the way. I was supposed to be streaming 2 hours ago, but I moved the stream 2 hours later because we were throwing a birthday party for Micah. So I only just got home. So that's why I had to shift the stream backwards. It was Micah's birthday yesterday, so we threw him a surprise party. So yeah, that's why I ended up coming late. A perfect entertainment for my train ride back home. Fair enough. How are the Urbans? Someone knows about the Urbans. You know about the Urbans. We appreciate that. You really appreciate that. Okay, but anyway, without further ado, because I don't like spending too long doing these intros, let's talk about Neelam Ahooja and essentially her addressing the whole issue concerning the row. Now, for people that don't know, just a bit of background on like Neelam, who is she? Like Neelam Gill, but her IG is Neelam Ahooja, so I just call her. I know her as her IG name, but I think she's one of the most stylish people that makes like style sort of content. She first got on my radar because she was a collector of the row, and it was at the time that the row was really buzzing. A lot of people were into it, but it wasn't as mainstream as now. So I found her content really interesting. She would talk about different pieces that she's getting from the row. She would review them, talk about the quality, talk about the fit, give style inspo tips concerning the row. So I kind of mentally, her as a person, I kind of found her synonymous with the row in my mind. It was kind of like, yeah, when you think of her, you just think of the row. And then recently, there was a lot of controversy online because apparently the row treated her badly. And so she decided to part ways with the row and not really work with the team anymore. Now, there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of misinformation that was shared online. And because of all this confusion and misinformation, she has actually gone out on a limb and posted her own video on YouTube responding to the whole situation. So I wanted to react to the video and kind of give my thoughts. I haven't actually watched it, so I wanted to watch it first time as I react to it, so you can get my genuine thoughts.
If you're tuning in, it's possible you've seen a post or podcast about my breakup with the row. And I was reluctant to post this because I didn't want to give this topic any more attention. But there's a lot of misinformation out there. And the first rule of good journalism is you speak to the subject at the center of the story. But no one who's posted about this has spoken with me prior to publishing their take. And that choice leaves a lot of room for misinterpretation and clickbait type articles which generate a lot of attention. So as much as I don't want to give this more air, I feel like adding my perspective because I'm at the center. I published an open letter on Substack and publicly ended a very long, complicated relationship with the row. After 5 years of behind-the-scenes behavior, I felt my audience deserved to know the truth. I posted a detailed story behind a paywall for my closed community, and I did that for two reasons. One, because the information was so sensitive, and I needed a safe space to share it. And two,
Before she continues, I do sense that like a lot of people don't know how the internet works sometimes, because it's like yes, you shared that behind a paywall, but if it's a big enough story, like someone who is synonymous with the row talking about how they are parting ways with the row, of course, people will post about it. She also wrote a detailed Substack about it, so there was not really much there was not really much you could clarify. Of course, some people turned it into something else. I do agree with what she's saying, but there wasn't really much to clarify based on if you read the whole Substack. To be honest.
Closest supporters and the people who pay me to speak about the row needed to understand the pivot they were about to see and the shift in my tone. So let's back up. I've been collecting the row for some time. The label launched in 2006, but I didn't have a presence online back then, though I had pieces of the row in my closet. My professional background is corporate finance, and I left that career to focus on my kids. But when my kids grew up, they said, well, it's time for you now to do what you want to do. That was fashion, always has been. In October of 2020, I began posting a little here and there on Instagram. Other creators had already been sharing pictures of themselves in the row. I remember back then the Gaia sandals, the Ginza sandals, the zip boots were kind of trending online in that smaller community, and I thought how wonderful to have found a group of people with shared interests. The row themselves didn't have a significant presence online yet. They were early days. And the response to my account was overwhelming because I was doing a deep dive into the brand. This was around the time the row was going through.
I think so. A big reason why I think that her content does so well, apart from the fact that I think she's really stylish, is that a lot of people don't have that much money. And considering that she does, and she comes from like a finance background, she's one of the few people that can actually afford a lot of the stuff that people talk about. So with her, there was a lot of first-hand experience, a lot of coming from a collector's perspective that is quite rare because, I mean, how many people can afford to be collectors of the row? So that was a big reason and a big interest point as to why I think people are really interested in her content. So I think that needs to be mentioned.
Some financial uncertainty. Barney's had folded. They don't do traditional advertising, but content creators were, doing the good work on the street, spreading the word. The production was much smaller back then, not much in each offering, and everything felt very special because if you missed out on something, there was a good chance you'd never see it again. So in response to questions I was getting on sizing and styling, I began posting bite-sized detailed videos on specific items on YouTube. That's how my channel started. At the time, I didn't even consider myself an influencer. I had a very small audience. I didn't have partnerships with anyone. I never used affiliate links. It was a hobby for me. I was a stay-at-home mom sitting in my bedroom talking about the row. Post-pandemic, I went into their New York City store. That day, Ashley Olsen happened to walk in. I was deciding between two Margot bags. They had plenty of them back then. And the rep I was working with and I decided to get her input on sizing. I was toggling between the 15 and the 17. So we spoke at length about the business, their strategy, factories, partners, all that stuff. And after I left the store, through my rep, she had extended an invite to the Paris show and the showroom. In Paris, at the showroom, I met what would be my contact for the next number of years. She's at the top of the organization and works with Ashley day to day. When we were speaking in the showroom, she quickly realized I had an in-depth knowledge and a deep interest in the brand. And she seemed to like that a lot. She gave me her number. She wanted to stay in touch. And that was the beginning of a long relationship. She'd text me, ask me for information, what my audience was keen on. And there was a general exchange of information between us. Stores were much quieter back then. There were no videos about products, no lineups outside the store, very little demand for the Margot. I published a detailed Margot video, and my rep told me that after that, the bags started to pick up. So I was pretty happy to hear that feedback because I didn't have a large reach, but my audience was niche and very focused on the row, and my work appeared to be influencing purchasing decisions. And I was one of the very few active voices on YouTube back then. So this is a good time to clarify this. The row doesn't work with influencers in any capacity.
So this is interesting. I didn't actually know that because I know she's been a collector of the row for a really long time, but I didn't know that she was one of the people at the forefront of making the Margot what it was and being a desirable bag. Because when I remember the Margot is when people started wearing it, and then all of a sudden you had all these magazines running articles saying that the Margot is the modern Birkin, or it's the Birkin for if you know fashion people. It's the fashionable Birkin for people that are in the know. Like those were the kind of articles they were running. That is really interesting to see that she was at the forefront of that. I also think it's crazy, and I know she'll get to it, how the road treated her, considering one, she's damn near a VIP customer, two, she's knowledgeable and really cared about the brand and really loved it, and three, she had an audience of people that looked to her opinion on the row. But anyway, I digress.
There are no paid partnerships. There are no gifts outside of the usual VIP holiday gifts that may be sent to you by your rep for having spent a significant amount of money in the store. They also don't work with any affiliate platforms. So if I link items through third-party retailers, I generate commissions. But if I link to the row directly, I don't make anything. I also want to restate that I didn't initiate contact with them. They did. And when they saw the success of my channels, they began to make demands of me, asking me for things they weren't asking of other VICs or other content creators. And for the most part, I was compliant because I'm professional and I wanted to be respectful. But it did cross a line. I live in Toronto and travel to New York City a few times a year.
Also, that's the first mistake she made. So, the first mistake she made, and I only know this because, like, I'm a content creator, is once brands start asking things of you, contracts have to be signed and money has to be paid, or there has to be some sort of contractual agreement, because brands will always just take as much as they can get out of you, or they'll milk whatever they can get. Because if you think about it, Neelam's audience is like the perfect audience for the row to kind of do research. It's like an audience that loves the row, they're knowledgeable about the row, a lot of them buy the row. It's like a community for the brand run by someone who's a good ambassador for the brand. All of that stuff, it's just a bit fishy that they started asking stuff of her that they wouldn't ask of anyone else. That's the first red flag to me. That sounds a bit dodgy. That sounds really dodgy.
And I'd make sure to stop in at the boutique. I'd be pulled aside into a back room while shopping, and my contact would come to gather intel and then talk down to me. And the words, "We are very..."
See what I'm saying? The contact would come to gather intel. So I guess, once again, huge fan of Neelam, but I think maybe because Neelam, like, I've been a content creator since I was 18. I'm 28 now, so I just know how these things work. Sometimes if you haven't been a content creator for that long, you haven't been in like the industry itself, like the fashion industry, for that long, you won't realize that someone collecting insights from you all the time for free that's not, it shouldn't be for free. That's consulting. What you're doing is consulting for the brand. That should not be free, and they certainly shouldn't be making those demands of you if you don't want to give them that information. That's a bit insane.
Disappointed in you were used often. Now keep in mind, I'm in the store, I'm a paying client, and I'm about 15 to 20 years older than most of them. But I was being spoken to like I was a petulant child. One particular visit to the store really stands out. I was in the change room and my rep approached me, and he said, "The head of PR," and he used his name, but I'd rather not, "is very upset with you. He said that I'd linked a pair of shoes that were too similar to the rows, and that I shouldn't have done that." A whole bunch of things bothered me about this right away.
Oh, that's problematic. That's problematic. Oh my God. So they started to see her as like she's someone who's really passionate about fashion and just happened to be a collector of the row and really passionate about the row. What does that have to do with what she can and can't post? So they were trying to control. They're like, "Oh, the shoe that you posted is very similar to the row. Take it down, or you can't post stuff like that." That is insane. Yeah, at that point, that should have been the end of it. The fact that she continued talking to them after that is insane. She should have kicked the road to the curb from then. Especially because I've talked about this before, but a lot of the rose pieces you can get from many other brands, whether that's Jill Sander or Yohji Yamamoto. I mean, they rip off a lot of these brands anyway. Phoebe Philo. So you don't have to buy the row. Like, there's so many other brands that are so close that it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I think from when they started to try and control what she can and can't post because they're saying it's too similar to the row, as if she's some like ambassador of the row, like official ambassador of the row. Those are the kind of parameters you put in place for someone that is contractually obligated to wear a brand with a non-compete. So like if I'm a Nike athlete and then I post an Adidas, me wearing Adidas, my Nike rep can literally call me and be like, well, you're contractually obligated to wear Nike and you can't wear competitors. So can you take that Adidas thing down? That would make sense. But them treating her like that with no like contract in place is insane. That's insane.
First of all, being in a change room, you're already a little vulnerable. You're half dressed. It's uncomfortable. Second, I'm a client in the store spending my money. And third, there was a client in the room next to me, and we're only separated by curtains, so she's listening. I gently pushed back. I explained I have aspirational followers. I always link both the row and other items that carry similar aesthetic because it makes them happy, and not everyone can afford to buy the row. And at some point, they may buy the row, so this isn't really a bad thing. I also earn commissions from those links, and this is how I sustain my business. I mean, to be honest, I was actually quite surprised that the row felt threatened by the likes of Cause and Jeffrey Campbell. So after I left the store, I wrote an email to my senior contact just expressing the frustration with what was becoming a pattern of disrespectful behavior. I reminded her that I'm not an employee. I'm not a content creator for them either. I'm a paying client, and I'm not theirs to be told what to do. I also said I'd been accommodating, and so she apologized, but her primary concern was that I keep silent on the matter and tell no one, and she repeated that message. And in between incidents like this, there were moments...
Whoa. Pause. Why did she let all this stuff happen? Why are they telling her what to do with no contract? What? Why did they even think they could tell her what to do? There's no contract in place. She's not a contractually obligated, ambassador for the row. If anything, she was a customer. This is how they were treating a client, and one of their most prominent clients. This might be the most insane thing that I've heard. And this is why, and I've said this in the past, that the row does make me cringe a bit, because I just associate the row with like a certain level of... I've gone into this before, many times before, but like, it's things like this that makes me cringe about the row. It's not even that original of a brand for them to have all these parameters and start harassing their own clients. What is going on here?
Calm, but then more trespasses. But there were no more apologies after that. And sometimes I'd be berated in front of other senior staff. Once, while I was in a Paris showroom many years ago, I remember one time I had tagged Bergdorf. My contact was furious. There were a pair of sold-out pants that had come back at Bergdorf's, and I used the only photo I had of myself, and that was taken at their store, and I linked the pants. The story was seen internally, reported back, and I was told off. Now, before anyone gets their knickers in a knot, I do understand it's a privilege to be able to take a photo in their precious space. It was my oversight, and I apologized. I wasn't actually thinking about that at the time. I was just excited because the pants...
No. I don't agree with her. No. It's not a privilege to take a picture in their space, because the reason why the row is successful is because of their customers. Without customers, brands aren't anything. So if you're one of their most prominent clients and you're one of the most prominent customers of the row, and not ambassadors, and when I say ambassador, I don't mean like officially, I just mean like someone that talks about the row publicly a lot and people look to your opinion, then they should be happy that you're with them or you're in their space. It shouldn't be the other way around. You shouldn't feel like, yes, I know it's a privilege. Unfortunately, I love her, but I think she's a bit of a pushover. Like, she let the row get away with already all these things. I would have kicked them to the curb already. She let them get away with way too much. And we're not even... I don't think we're halfway through the video yet. And I'm already getting mad about the kind of stuff that they're asking of her. Like, this is insane.
Brought of stock, and they came back in, and I wanted my audience to get them. Meanwhile, my friends and family continually reminding me in the back that I'm a paying client and none of this is okay. When I called the store later that same week to place a significant order with them, on the phone I was told, "We heard what you did. The row expects your loyalty, Neelam. You should be tagging us all the time and sending everyone to your New York City rep." And I remember thinking, if I'm not...
Once again, I hope she addresses this, but was there a contractual agreement? If there's no contractual agreement, how can the row say, "We expect your loyalty"? Kick them to the curb. Like, what? How can the row say they expect your loyalty? Kick them to the curb and just start buying Phoebe Philo. Like, what is that rubbish? Just kick them to the curb and start buying Yoji and Jill Sander and Phoebe Philo. Like, how can they not? How can you be one of their most prominent clients? You spend your own hard-earned money on the brand, and they're telling you what to do, and they're telling you we expect your loyalty. They're not supposed to have control over what you can post or what you say or what you want to wear. No, she let way too much slide. Way too much slide. I didn't even know it was this bad. This is way worse than I thought it was. This is crazy. This is crazy.
Not loyal, who is? I think that was part of the problem. I didn't set proper boundaries. I'd bend and apologize. I was kind. And
Thank you. At least she owned up to it. She didn't set boundaries. She is apologizing. Don't apologize. Don't apologize. Do not apologize.
accommodating, and they knew I loved their line. And it got to the point that between the random texts and phone calls and the reprimands, I became very anxious to post anything, always kind of second guessing myself. And my true voice was diluted through their dictation and attempts to control. And I was always trying to balance the needs of my audience with the needs of the row. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, like, why I did any of this. I mean, maybe you're thinking I would have walked away. Why did you stay? Well, it's partly my upbringing. I'm a minority, and I was raised in a small, impoverished white town, and I learned compliance for safety very early in life. I'm also Canadian, and we're unfailingly polite. And I was
Okay, so that explains a lot of it. It's probably a cultural thing because I was like, why did she kick them to the curb this whole time? Like, if I'm not rich, but if I was rich and I was like someone that could afford the row, considering how expensive the row is, there are way too many alternatives for any kind of brand to try and tell me what to do. Like, if the row is trying to tell me what to do, I'm kicking them to the curb. And I'm just buying Phoebe Philo and Jill Sander and Yoji Yamamoto and Cos if I want to like go down to like Cos. And I'm buying whatever else is on the market, Bottega Veneta. Like, why do you have to force yourself to buy a brand where they're literally controlling your every move? Like she said, she felt like she was balancing the needs of her audience with the needs of the row. And at that point, that means that your voice is not 100% authentic because a lot of your voice or a lot of what your opinions are being filtered through this corporate machine that is the row. And the whole point of, at least to me, being like a content creator, being an independent voice, is that you can say what you want. You're supposed to, like for me, I always feel like my responsibility is with my audience and no one else. So if I review something, I have a responsibility to give my truest thoughts to my audience and not have that be filtered through a corporation. So you should never ever allow a company to do that because I think that destroys what the whole point of like having an independent platform is. Otherwise, I might as well be Vogue. But anyway, let's continue watching.
taught respect. I admired the Row's work, and I felt I had an obligation to represent them well. When Vogue published that infamous Margot article and Jenner stepped out in full row and they acquired new investors, things changed over there rapidly. I remember having a quick conversation with my contact. She was saying how exciting it was, and I was excited for them. They were growing very quickly. I didn't have as much contact with her after that. We stayed in touch. It was very friendly. I'd ask questions now and then. She'd ask me questions, but it wasn't like it was before. And privately, I was dealing with a personal emergency. We developed a close relationship over the years, so I knew things about them, and they knew what was happening with me. My mom had been diagnosed with a very aggressive form of brain cancer a few years ago, and she died earlier this year. So it was a very painful ordeal for our family. This past September, October, it was Paris Fashion Week, and I was faced with a decision to make. Do I stay back or return to some sense of normalcy after months of grieving? I also wanted to make sure I was still welcome in the showroom because I didn't want to assume anything. So I messaged my contact, and she said, yes, come. But when I arrived in Paris, I couldn't get a hold of her to confirm the timing. And the one message I did receive was a little cryptic, something to the effect of, we're very busy, we'll see, maybe 15 minutes. Now, had I known that earlier, I wouldn't have traveled, especially given the circumstances, but there I was. And by sheer coincidence, I ran into her in the lobby of a hotel neither one of us were staying at. She's a bit cold, and she told me that she was with a client. We spoke about my mom briefly, but I told her I didn't want to take up too much of her time. And I just wanted to know what my time slot was and whether the new no influencers in the showroom policy was at play here at all. And this is where things really turned. Responded with a very big sigh and said, Neelam, I like you, but all the stuff that comes with Neelam. I think I froze, simply trying to ascertain the details of a showroom appointment I was invited to but told nothing about. Unfortunately, she continued with a condescending tone. Which one are you? Are you an influencer or are you a client? I told her I wore 2 hats. I told her I was a client, but I'm also a content creator who sends people to the row. So then she launched into a tirade of accusations. She said, we cannot confirm this. You don't send anyone to the row. And in fact, we hear you tell people not to shop at the row. All of this is patently false, of course. I told her this, and I told her not only do I tell people to visit the stores, but because each one is unique and lovely, I tell them who I work with in each of the boutiques. I even did an entire video.
Okay, let's pause there. She definitely brings people to the row. I don't know who that person she's talking about is, but that person literally doesn't have 2 brain cells. Everyone with 2 brain cells knows that she's definitely responsible for uplifting the row, making it more popular. You know, the reason why so many people bought the row is because of her, because some people are on the fence and then she might talk about something or style something a certain way, and then because of that, you know, they'll be like, okay, I'm going to buy the row. Like, everyone knows that. It's common sense. Everyone knows that. I just think she needs to learn to put her foot down, and I'm a big fan of hers, but that's my goal as a journalist or as someone that speaks on these things, is to speak the truth. She needs to learn to put her foot down. You cannot let, and I'm just saying this because she might watch this video, and I'm a huge fan of her content, like huge fan. We love Neelam because she's super stylish, she has a strong point of view, and she has taste. That can come through any brand. It doesn't need to be the row. I will definitely continue watching her content regardless of what brand she wears, because her taste level is so high that it doesn't matter. She's going to look good and she's going to give people style inspo regardless of, you know, the brand that she wears. So she just needed to not have so much love for a brand, especially a brand that's treating you that badly, a brand that you're spending your hard-earned money on, and they're just like telling you what to do and accusing you of things. And this sounds like a toxic ex. Literally, this is sounding like a toxic ex. So yeah, this is crazy. This is crazy. I've worked in the industry since I was 18. Like I've said, I'm 28 now. I don't think I've ever had this kind of experience with a brand. Like, some brands I critique quite harshly, and the PRs for all these brands just understand that that's my role as a journalist. Like, I'm supposed to critique things. So they don't care. I've never ever had a brand be like, oh, you have to say something like this, or you have to do it this way. And if they tried, I'll just be like, no. And there's nothing they can do about it. There really isn't anything they can do about it. So I think she just needs to learn that they don't have as much power as she thinks they do. They can't really do anything. So she shouldn't have let them get away with all the stuff they got away with. Like, this is way too much stuff.
Dedicated to talking about why I love the row and talked about each of the boutiques. Paris wasn't open at the time. I did say, though, that if people come to me for advice or if they've taken my time, I share my commissionable links because that's how I earn my income. So unlike other stylists, I don't charge by the hour. I offer my Substack chat subscribers access to me. And if I take the time to answer them, or they use my community to make decisions, a community that took a lot of time and energy to create, then I share my commissionable links. She said she saw how much business I was sending to my Teresa. She said I was so successful that she's seen the numbers and that I may as well keep linking because we're not hiring you for this job. I found the conversation kind of jarring. The row items are expensive and my income goes back into purchases, which I then review and share with my audience. That then influences more people to purchase, and either way, I feel the row wins. Yes, of course, they'd like to earn their full margins and have me direct all the traffic to them because...
So that's what happens when brands get greedy, because ultimately what she was doing was a net positive for the row. So for them to see it any other way, they're just stupid. If they see it any other way, they're just dumb. So it's like, if someone is constantly spending their own money. First of all, I'm just saying this is how it looks to an audience. If I spend my money on something, my audience is going to think, okay, he cares about that enough to spend his own money on it. He's clearly into it. Now, if I'm reviewing it and I'm saying how good it is, if that's the taste of someone, people trust my opinion because it's like, okay, you spent your money and you're saying it's good, and you weren't paid to say this was good or bad or whatever. So, and she was spending her own money constantly and constantly saying, oh, this piece is really good. Oh, I really like this piece. How could that possibly not be a net positive for the row? But they're just like, because you're, instead of, linking affiliate links to us, you're doing it through My Teresa. Well, sorry, you guys didn't set up an affiliate program for one of the most influential people that wears the row on the internet. Like, it's so stupid. Like, if I had a brand and someone was like spending a lot of money on my brand and they had a really strong audience that was, talking about my brand, wearing my brand, discussing it, I would just create an affiliate program specifically for that person. So we can even gauge what percentage of the customers are actually coming from this one person. Also, that would be good research and like data to have. So for them to be greedy, kind of neglect or negate all the stuff that she did for the row, and then turn around and say, you might as well work for My Teresa because that's where all your affiliate links are going to. That's insane. That is insane.
If I direct to third-party retailers, they have to share their profits. Their margin gets cut, and they don't like that. They wanted me to direct all traffic to them, even if it meant foregoing my own earnings. But that's not for them.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. They don't care if she makes money from it or not. They wanted all her traffic to go directly to the row. Meanwhile, they didn't pay her. All this insight they got from her, and I get it. This is what happens when you're like, you haven't been in the industry for this long, so you don't understand that you giving these people all this information is consulting. I get paid good money to do this for brands. Like, if brands want to start picking my brain, I send them an invoice and I get paid before I start sharing insights. The row should never, ever, ever have been able to keep asking you for insights and telling you what to do without payment. Like, it just shouldn't have happened.
To decide. If I'm working, I feel I should be able to earn an income. That seems reasonable. What isn't reasonable is being spoken to like this by a longtime contact turned friend in a public setting shortly after we talked about my mom, about a showroom that I'd been invited to. And the messaging was consistent across all senior contacts that I don't do enough for them. She told me I could come to the showroom, but that if I was coming as a client only, not as an influencer, and that I was to be quiet because they like things quiet. And she gestured my way with her hands and said, "This is not for us." So I thanked her for her time, and after I left, she messaged to tell me she'd reserved the best time slot for me at the showroom, and that if I stayed a day longer, I could have the entire showroom to myself to explore. But I declined. I have no...
Finally, she declined. Thank goodness. What I don't understand is they said that they feel like she doesn't do enough. What do they want her to do for the brand? I'm so lost. Like, she gave them insights for free. She was helping them out for free. She was pushing customers to them for free. What else? Do they want her to be like Superwoman? Like, I don't... What else do they expect from her? I don't understand.
No issues with the fact that they want different people around the brand now, and that they no longer have a desire for the rest of us. They want people like Kendall. It's their business. That's their choice. And in fact, they probably need her more than anyone else because they have new investors and they need a new generation of clients. It is hypocritical, though, because her name isn't really synonymous with restraint. And what I take issue with is how I've been spoken to over the years, especially in Paris. I experienced a blatant misuse of power within the relationship. And after I wrote the open letter, I received messages from other content creators, row clients, business partners, and people from inside the industry all sharing their own experiences. So it feels like this is a much larger problem. If we're going to talk about entitlement, we should talk about the rows. There was a sense that they had the right to demand things from me, that my loyalty meant silence. I often felt policed. And one of the ways this story has really been twisted is that it's being framed as an influencer who is upset because her access or privileges were taken away. But that's untrue. But that's
Okay, so this is what she was referring to at the start, where she said that people didn't, ask her, and then people kind of ran with their own story. So that's interesting that people ran that narrative. I didn't see people, at least on my circle of fashion, I didn't see people running with that narrative. But that's interesting.
let's be clear about what access actually means. If you're a VIC, which is what they've referred to me as, it's someone with a significant spend. You're offered certain things. You might get extended holds or items brought in just for you, pieces sent on approval, meaning you decide what you want to keep and return and they charge you after. You might get VIP access to the sample sale, which I did. You might get a seat at a runway show. I've been to a couple, like other clients and content creators have. You might get access to the showroom. Again, I have, like other clients and other content creators. In fact, I've met a few of the content creators there in their showroom. But what seemed to be unique to me was what came with those privileges. The demands, the condescension, the talking down to, the humiliation, the lack of respect. As the brand grew more powerful, the demands grew too. So no, this wasn't about access. In fact, in Paris, I declined the access because in the end, my priority is always the relationship. I've heard this question a lot too. Like, why didn't you speak up sooner? Well, I've talked about that before, but for me, pushing back against power has always been difficult. Again, a lot to do with my upbringing. But what happened?
Didn't she say she worked in finance? I don't. What's this issue with pushing back against power? I don't understand. I just don't understand that culturally. Like, I also was raised to, be respectful to people. But if people are just taking the rice and peas, if people are taking the baked beans, if people are taking the piss, then it gets to a point where that respect is no longer mutual. When respect is no longer mutual, you kick people to the curb. That's how you behave. Like, my default is to be respectful to people, but if people are disrespectful to me, then I kick them to the curb. That's how you're supposed to. And if you work in finance, I would have thought that, like, because in finance you're supposed to be very rough and tough, and you know what I mean, supposed to put your foot down and not be a pushover, because at least from my friends that I know that work in finance, there's always that person that's trying to take advantage, so you have to be on your toes the whole time. But anyway, let's continue watching.
In Paris was egregious, and I was a bit changed because I no longer had my mom. And when someone significant in your life dies, it changes you profoundly. Like, I found a new voice, and that's the voice that came through in the open letter. There's been a lot of commentary around money, too, that I made a killing off the row, so let's be clear about how this work functions. I started talking about something I loved purely as a hobby at a stage in my life when I had the space to do that. Organically, it turned into a career. On YouTube, when I started, I was a small fish. I'm still not that big relative to other accounts, and I wasn't even monetizing my channel for a very long time. I had forgotten to turn that feature on. And so the idea that I made a fortune there is simply untrue. And the same goes for Substack. The number you see next to my name is my total subscribers, not paid. I have paid subscribers, but it's a fraction of that. So like most creators, I rely primarily on paid partnerships and commissionable links, and I'm selective. I turn down a lot because alignment matters to me. Linking is pretty standard in our industry. We link third-party retailers or other brands that participate in those platforms. And I don't believe creators should have to defend earning an income. I mean, I know it looks fun, and many days it is. That's how it started. It was.
I think the main issue here is I don't think she understands how the whole system works. Like, the Rose shouldn't have even been talking to you about what you should or shouldn't be doing. That's like the first thing. So she should never have even been in a conversation around, trying to justify to a brand whether you can or can't make an earning. Like, I've literally never had that happen in my entire time working in fashion. Like, and it just won't happen. I don't even see how that could happen. I actually don't even see a situation where that could even happen.
Joyful, but it's still work. And further, as a brown woman in an industry dominated by younger white women, it's really hard to make a space for yourself. I do want to say this. I'm grateful for my time with the Row because I did benefit from covering them. They were growing at a time I was growing, and as they grew, I grew. So yeah, it was helpful, but it doesn't negate how they were treating me. Some people have wondered why an open letter, why not just deal with it privately? Well, because my contact was so senior. And when behavior is coming from the top, there's no private resolution left. And this needed to be said. This is an industry filled with women, including minority women, and speaking up matters if we want things to change. This isn't about dragging anyone or tearing anything down. It's simply about telling the truth from my seat and trusting that people can actually sit with this complexity. And I know a lot of you out there are saying, well, how naive that you didn't know they were elitists from the beginning. But listen, that was not my experience from the beginning. Over time, and maybe it just took me a while to get there, I learned a little more. Also, I have friends that are designers. They use beautiful fabrics, they pay fair wages, and they design slowly with intention. And their pieces are pricey, but they're some of the nicest people in the industry. So I think the two can coexist. It's not hard to be nice. And one would think that part of what we're paying for is the service. It seems like we've gone from customer-based prestige to status-based exclusion. And I don't know why that shift gets excused. Why should loyal clients have to tolerate mistreatment and just accept it as part of the experience? In the aftermath of the open letter, I received a range of direct messages, and you know what stood out to me was how quickly some people are moving to defend this powerful establishment against the...
Yeah, so the reason why people defend the row is because there's so many people. It's the same kind of person that you know the kind of person that politically votes for things that don't benefit them. It benefits like people that are richer than them, but they vote for those things because in their mind they're like, well, I'm going to be that rich someday, even though statistically most of them don't get there. It's like just a fallacy in their mind. So they're like, well, I'm going to vote for those things because in 10 years I'm going to be those rich people, so I don't want to vote against my future self. That's basically what this is, the fashion version of that, where these guys are like, well, I don't want anyone to spoil the row for me when I can afford it in 10 years, all those kind of things. So yeah, people like that are just so annoying. Like, you shouldn't be defending corporations, especially when they do bad things. Like, there's no reason to defend a massive corporation.
Count of one individual, and many times with undertones that I'm really uncomfortable with. They're very racially charged comments. It made me curious, like, what is it people are actually defending in those moments? The people behind the brand, or the idea of the brand itself and the values we project onto it? Something else that surprised me in all of this was how defensiveness can turn into fabrication. I've seen some comments saying I'm rude to people in my interactions. Listen, I have receipts. When I encounter rudeness, I typically don't engage. I block and I move on. But I feel like we're living in a time where anyone can say anything online and there's very little accountability for it. I did a Q&A on Instagram, and the questions about how I move forward came up. So one of the most difficult parts of coming forward here was knowing how much I loved their clothes. So I'm breaking up with a brand whose work I admire so much and feels very me. You know, it's that love that kind of brought me here in the first place. It's why I started the channel and why I stepped into the work. So what will look different is how I shop and how I speak about what I'm wearing. So I can divorce the people from the craft. I still understand their products. I've had years of experience, and I think my perspective is still useful to my audience. And to be honest, removing linking would only harm my business. So this is part of my income, and it supported my family during a really difficult time. So I'm going to continue to cover them uncensored now. I want to balance this with other brands, of course, and I know we vote with our dollars. I'll buy less overall. I'll buy through third-party retailers.
I'm surprised that she's still buying the row. Why is she still buying it? Once again, the rose aesthetic you can find in so many other brands. But I do like that now she's like, I'm going to cover it unbiased without, the chirping noise coming from the brand. And that's what I was saying from the start. I'm like, why didn't you just do that from the start? Like, why do you let them get away with them telling you to do anything? No brand should be able to tell you to do anything. That's absolutely insane. I think ultimately, and this is why I'm confused about, like, once again, because she said she works in finance. Like, when it comes to businesses will always try to get away with as much as they can. It even happens to me. Like, I might negotiate a deal or negotiate like a fee with a company. And let's say they have, I don't know, a 5K budget. And then they're like, we have a 1K budget, because they just want to see if I'm going to accept it. Like, it's just gay. This is literally business. So it's up to me to be like, no, I'm not gonna do it for 1K, and then they're gonna go back and pretend like they're deliberating between each other, even though they know they have a 5K budget. Then they're gonna come back and be like, okay, we have 3K. We've discussed with our clients, and our client is now saying we can bring the fee up to 3K. And me having so much experience with what kind of brand has what kind of budget, and I'll be like, I'm not doing it for 3K. And then they're like, oh, this is going to be hard. I don't know, but we're going to try our best to go back to the client. And then they pretend to go back to the client. And they're like, after a lot of discussion with the client has now decided last to offer a fee of 5K. And I'm like, yeah, I'll accept that. Because I know it's just a game. It's just a game. So that's how business is. So if you're working with any kind of company, it's up to you, the individual, to decide where you put your foot down, or where you say no, or when you say no, or how much you let them get away with. That's up to you as an individual. No one else can do it. So they will only that's why they were asking her for the insights, because she was giving it to them without saying no. She was giving it to them without asking for money. If it was me, they would have asked me to give them the insights, and I would have been like, no, here's how much it costs. And they would have had to pay. And if they didn't pay, I just wouldn't give them the insight. Simple. Like, that's how she should start treating all her conversations with brands. And I hope that if she watches this, because this is from a good place. Like, I love her. Like, I literally love her work. Big fan of hers. But I just think that these things are, because clearly there's no one saying this. So it's like, these things are very important to say, and for people to know, not just for her, but, you know, for everyone watching, that this is how it works. Businesses will just try to see how much they can get away with for free, because why not? Why not? That's just how they think.
On sale mostly and pre-owned, because the pricing has become even more absurd. There's lots to consider, and I'm moving through this imperfectly, I guess. I'm going to close off here. Holidays are right around the corner. I know it's a tough one for a lot of you, and it's definitely a tough one for our family. I hope you have a restful holiday, and I hope to see you on the other side. Take care.
Okay, that was a really hard watch. It's quite sad, considering that she was such a good ambassador for the brand, in my opinion, that's how they treated her. I think that's absolutely insane. I'm just still confused why she still wants to buy more from the row. I just say, like, kick that brand to the curb and just, like, don't even wear it. Obviously she owns pieces, but I mean, don't buy more stuff. Don't buy new stuff from the brand. I think there's so many other brands that offer that aesthetic. It's not like the row is what's a brand that has a really distinctive aesthetic that you can't get anywhere else? Like Water Van Beirendonk. Like if you were a fan of Water Van Beirendonk and then you decided, okay, I need to look for an alternative, that will be kind of hard to find an alternative to Water Van Beirendonk that's really similar. But the row is not one of those brands, to be honest. The row really isn't one of those brands that's like hard to find alternatives. Someone says maybe she feels some type of connections to the row. Maybe by still buying the company will change and respect her. We both know that's not going to happen, because she has publicly, I won't say ousted, but she's publicly spoken on the brand and, like, you know, the issues she has with the brand. And even this YouTube video just adds on it. So there's always going to be animosity with her and the row forever. It's just how it's going to be now, especially because this video is public. So that's just not going to happen. There's no amount of money she can spend that will completely perfect her relationship with the row. It's not going to happen. Yes, she's had a major loss already, so it's probably just hard for her to sever ties. Yeah, and it is obviously sad that she went through loss, but I think it's important to note that she should have severed ties a long time ago, before anything else happened, before she unfortunately lost a family member and all these things. There were things that they were doing in the past that should have led to her severing ties. So yeah, the row sounds like they do coke. That's insane. I feel like the row is very West Coast coded. It's like a West Coast point of view on East Coast fashion. Yeah. I don't agree with how she handled it, but I can see character traits that are holding her back. Yeah, I just think, I really hope if she watches this that she doesn't keep buying the row. That's just my biggest hope. I just think that if you keep buying the row, you're essentially indirectly okaying everything that they did and just not putting your foot down. So that's crazy. I really hope she doesn't put so much of a focus on that brand anymore. And says, I mean, I think she will progressively phase it out of her life. I don't know. That's up for her to decide. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of react to this because obviously we did cover the Substack. So it's good to have an update of her kind of explaining the story from her point of view. I think that, I mean, I'm part of her audience personally, and I think that I don't care what brand she wears. Like I said, I think that her taste level is so high. I just want to know how she styles anything. It could be Bottega, it could be Josanda, it could be Kate, it could be Cos, it could be, I don't know, like Phoebe Philo, it could be Peter Doe, it could be Daniel Lee's Burberry. I don't care. I think she's going to look good regardless, and I just want to see how she's going to wear it. So I just don't, this reliance on the row, I just don't think is necessary. And as someone that's part of her audience, I don't think that everything has to be the row. And if it's not the row, like her audience won't be that interested. I don't agree with that, to be honest. I'm gonna go through some more comments and then we're gonna move on to the next topic. Know your worth because these brands will appropriate your style and knowledge for their own advantage. 100%. 100%. Yeah, she can definitely pivot. She just has to take the jump. Totally agree. Totally agree. At this point, you need to invoice her a management fee and introduce her to a brand called Whispers. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Hermes by Margiela, Vintage Armani, 100%. Please invite her for an interview not regarding the row on your channel. Okay. I will invite her to an interview. Whether she accepts it or not is a whole totally different thing. But if I invite her to an interview, it will just be to talk about fashion generally and not to like keep beating a dead horse and talk about this issue, because I can imagine it's traumatic for her to keep talking about it and thinking about it. So I don't want to be one of those people that keeps having to bring it up. But yeah, I'll reach out to her after the stream. But yeah, anyway, that's the whole story with the row. More reasons to not like the row. If you weren't already, you know, on my side of the fence with the fact that the row copies so many brands that I talk about all the time, especially one of my favorite brands, Yohji Yamamoto. That's why the row as a brand for me, it's just a bit, as someone like the first fashion designer I ever learned about was Yohji Yamamoto. The first like semi-expensive thing I ever bought was a Y3 jacket that I still own. So for me, the row is always going to be icky because it's like they just copy Yohji. So for me, it's just always going to be an icky brand anyway. But yeah, those are my personal thoughts. You don't have to agree. So yeah. Next, I want to talk about JW Anderson's Christian Dior Pre-Fall 2026 collection. Of course, we talked about the menswear Pre-Fall collection and the womenswear collection launched on the 17th of December, so not that long ago. There's many different ideas, so we're just really going to go through like all the different looks and kind of really talk about what JW Anderson's ideas are for this pre-fall collection and kind of what that means for his total vision of Dior moving forward. So to kind of give you a summary, I would say that JW Anderson has slowly been building these different elements and these different JW Anderson X Dior house codes. And that's why it feels like a lot of his collections have been a continuation of each other. And you see like a lot of the pieces, they mirror each other. So like even in this collection, when you see this sort of like 18th century coat, it mirrors a men's coat that was literally in a menswear show, if you guys remember this look here, right? And the whole idea of this that JW Anderson has said is this idea of having this sort of fluid wardrobe where it's like quite similar depending on the gender. And that makes a lot of sense for JW Anderson. I mean, JW Anderson was really known for, doing a lot of genderless fashion. I remember when I first learned about JW Anderson's work years ago, and at London Fashion Week, he was doing all these like gender bending silhouettes. So there's something he's always been known for. Many other brands do this. You have the likes of what Miuccia Prada and Raf Simons are doing at Prada. They literally mirror the menswear and womenswear collections together. So they normally look similar. It's similar ideas. It's similar silhouettes, just kind of, in different styles. So that tends to happen a lot. So you will see a lot of through lines with a lot of past things that he's done at his short time at Dior in this collection. You'll see a lot of that. So with this collection, starts out with this sort of wide denim. Now this is quite interesting because we know that JW Anderson has kind of been trying to, what he says, and he's been saying this kind of in press releases and interviews, he's trying to find this perfect balance between a contemporary wardrobe, but also referencing Christian Dior and, Christian Dior's couture. So it's kind of bringing this kind of, what do we associate with Dior? We associate couture, we associate glamour, these, decadence, these crazy dresses, these elaborate dresses that are really classic. How do I modernize these but still have the energy, the original energy of Christian Dior? So he's taking like all these, couture silhouettes and then making day-to-day garments like jeans. So that's kind of what he's done with the wide jeans. Also, it's kind of like a riff and a play on him as a person. So JW Anderson always wears jeans. He's famous for wearing his Levi jeans everywhere. That's like his personal uniform at this point. He just wears like jeans, like a rugby shirt and some sneakers. That is literally his like day-to-day thing. So it's also kind of like a riff on him too, because he likes to wear jeans a lot and kind of bringing his own personal wardrobe to couture and to Dior ready to wear, which is quite interesting. So I thought that was an interesting way to open the collection. In the second look, we have this bar jacket. Of course, a very famous silhouette from Dior. It has bows on it all over. Now, this makes a lot of sense. Christian Dior, and I said this in kind of like my short review, but it's something I can reiterate again. Christian Dior was very, very inspired by the Belle Epoque era. When you look at a lot of the dresses from the Belle Epoque era, there tend to be a lot of ribbons, a lot of bows, a lot of knot details. That was kind of what was on there. So Christian Dior himself used to have a lot of bows on his garments, and he would design a lot of bows on his garments. So this is kind of JW Anderson finding creative ways to kind of work on Christian Dior's house code. So that's why he's like, how can I, make a bar jacket, but also have all these crazy bows? Also, the silhouette is like a very JW Anderson silhouette of the bar jacket. On the menswear side, he kind of has a silhouette that's kind of cropped. It's like a cropped bar jacket for men. And you have the women's wear that's kind of not as cropped. It's kind of more boxy, and this is kind of what he's doing here. Someone said I left the party to do content. That's hilarious. Anyway, moving on. So here you have, once again, some of the bow details up close. So the footwear, this like CD over branded footwear is not for me. I'm just understanding that we've seen this in enough of the collections that JW Anderson has done. So we're just gonna have to deal with this kind of stuff. I don't like it. It's not for me. This silhouette, once again, is JW Anderson working on the bows. Now, I think one issue with JW Anderson's Dior, and I have a lot of good things to say about this collection, but I think where I have an issue is when first of all, I think he's overdoing the bow details. I also think that the volume, because JW Anderson does this kind of like oversized playing with proportions in a fun way. And in the context of Loewe, I think it really works. But in the context of Dior, that's more classic in its aesthetic. It just looks odd and it looks off-putting. So a lot of things that would work at Loewe, when you put it in the context of Dior, it doesn't look right. And that's why you see a lot of people when they talk about these collections, they're like, it doesn't quite look right. I can't put a finger on it. That's kind of what they're referring to. Also, JW Anderson is referencing a lot of the archives. So, for example, this is an evening dress, a Christian Dior evening dress from 1957. This was a very strong piece that he was kind of referencing across the collection with the bow details on both sides. I just think that, look at the volume here, and then look at the volume on JW Anderson's version, and you can see what I mean, where I just say, like, sometimes when he tries to reference these things, the proportions are really off. So that's kind of an issue I have sometimes. The hardware and the jewelry is amazing. I think that this sort of antique jewelry, and we'll get to it, I think not only Dior is doing it, you have the likes of Michael Ryder at Celine. He's been doing a lot of that sort of antique jewelry. I think it really works. I personally like it. I think it's going to sell really well. So I think that's a positive direction from Dior. I think the jewelry design has been really good and really interesting. Moving on, you have the bow detail bar jacket in a different colorway. You've got some outerwear. I thought the outerwear was really good. Also, to talk about the bags briefly, I also have seen a lot of interest with some of these like Dior bags that he's been designing, and I think that a lot of people are really interested. Like this bow bag, they're calling it the Dior bow bag. I think so many people are interested. This kind of like this bag here. I think this is really cool, and the fact that you hold the handle on one side, it's like a one-sided handle bag. I personally really like that bag. I think it's really cool. I hope that, you know, people take to it. And like someone is saying in the comments, very, very good at accessories. He is very, very good at accessories. I totally agree. Moving on here again, once this is me whilst talking about with the antique jewelry, this is exactly what I mean. Once again, he's playing with like just different knots and bow details, even in like the styling. Here you have this sort of antique hardware being put onto the bags. I think the placement could be different in the bag. This kind of looks a bit off-putting, almost like the bag is cheaper than it actually is because of the placement of the hardware. But I like that the hardware is there. I just think they could have done it differently, personally. And then once again, I've told you, when it comes to the footwear with this sort of antique sort of hardware, I think it's kind of cool. I think it's also a very clear signifier. It's like when you look at it, it's like, oh yeah, that's JW Anderson, Dior. I think that's a really cool way to do it. The ones with the C and D details is the one that's really not for me. Will there be the need and itch to constantly reference? Will that ever change with the culture of referencing lagging innovation? That is a fair statement to make. I think designers shouldn't like reference so much. I think you should reference because a brand has house codes, but I think you should kind of try to make it yours. Kind of like what Demna did at Balenciaga. He kind of made a lot of the house codes his. That's kind of what you have to do when you go to a brand. But yeah, moving on. Okay, so here we've kind of spoken about this already. Kind of him working with, and this is even coming from the first collection. So if you guys may or may not remember, but the first his debut collection, which was the menswear collection, he was talking about this idea of looking at archives of 17th and 18th century menswear. And so he came up with these sort of like capes and, different kind of tailcoats and waistcoats and all these kind of silhouettes from the 18th and 17th century. And every single subsequent collection since, he's kind of referenced it in his own way. So this is once again one of those references here. You can see a tailcoat, a waistcoat on the inside, bootcut jeans with all this really elaborate embroidery around it. I think this is actually really cool. I actually really like these pieces. I kind of like this idea of going into the archives and having this like old school clothing. What I will say is it's really out of place in the collection though. Like if you were to see this look and then see everything else, it just looks out of place. It's almost like it's from a different collection. So I think one issue I've been having with his Dior also is like the world building, or it's kind of like how cohesive, everything is as a collection. I think he's kind of had issues with that. But as a piece, as an idea, separately, I do like it. Okay, we've got close-ups. Like I said, really love the outerwear. Like the cape details, the denim. I really like that. Here, once again, you have J.W. Anderson really playing with the bows, but kind of finding a more commercial piece. And I think, to be honest, it's not to say his job is easy. It's really, really, really difficult to find a way to modernize Dior house codes and also make it commercial, because we're probably in the most commercial landscape in fashion ever. And so there is a level of commercial requirement that we're seeing from designers that you haven't really seen in the past. Like the kind of figures that designers need to hit these days, designers of the past eras did not have to hit these figures. So it's a difficult balancing act, but I do think that he can do a lot better with the balancing act. Granted, this is a pre-fall collection, so with pre-fall collections, they are very commercial in nature. Once again, you've got the bees, the very famous Dior bees. Here, once again, this is kind of what I'm talking about with the volume. He's referencing old Dior silhouettes once again, with the tool kind of coming out. Some people liked it, some people didn't like it. Personally, not to my taste. But I just think he has an issue with this like bow volume. It's like, let me see if I can get some of the Christian Dior J.W. Anderson red carpet looks, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Because when you start to see it on a red carpet is when it really rears its head. It's like stuff like this. It's like the volume is off. So that's something I think he needs to... This is the kind of thing, and this is why context matters. At Loewe, this works. Because at Loewe, J.W. Anderson would play with different grading systems. So J.W. Anderson would do something simple like, it's a jacket, but then the buttons would be oversized, and it puts a focus on an element of a jacket that we take for granted. And that would kind of be the idea. And it would be fun and it would be funny. Because it's Loewe, and Loewe is kind of... J.W. Anderson turned Loewe into this sort of artsy, crafty, surrealist brand. That's not Dior. And you can't really do that at Dior without it just looking weird and it just looking out of place. And people being like, I can't put my finger on it. Why does it look weird? That's literally what's going to happen. And moving on. Okay, so this piece, once again, going back to the piece that I said J.W. Anderson referenced a lot in this collection. This is another one of those pieces that is, referencing the 1957 Christian Dior evening dress. So, but once again, the volume, I just can't get over how weird the volume is. Like, just compare this dress that you're looking at now, and then just look at this. We're gonna keep going back and forth. Look at the volume of this, and then look at the volume of this, and then look at the volume of this, and then look at the volume of this. and then look at the one here. It's just not right. It just doesn't look right. It's just this like oversized, putting an exaggerated emphasis on the bow detail. It doesn't look nice to me. It just doesn't. It's not flattering. It really, really isn't flattering. So that's my personal opinion on that. Moving on, got some more outerwear pieces that I really like, the footwear that I really like, the bags, different ideas. This is also another bag that he's really going to be pushing. I don't even know what that bag is called. I just call it like the crumpled Dior bag. I don't. The guys in the chat, do you know what that bag is actually called? I don't know. He's since his first collection, the women's wear collection, he's been pushing that bag, and I actually really like it, but I don't know what it's called. Like, what's the official name for that bag? It's kind of like the crumpled, quilted tote bag, Dior tote bag. That's what I'm going with. The crumpled, quilted tote bag. Okay, someone is saying the color is nice. Okay, someone said the dress looks sad, like it's the end of the night and she left the party with a blank dance card. So yeah, I don't. Also, what is this thing, right? I understand that fashion is art, and you know, there's a certain level of creativity that you can put in fashion, but I also think that to some extent, clothing has to be flattering. Like with stuff like this, there's nothing flattering about this. And it's even worse when, once again, when you start looking at the references and what he's referencing, it's, crazy. And you have, because this detail, it's a house code, right? So every single designer that has designed at Christian Dior has played with the bows and has done that kind of stuff. And like, for example, Christian Dior Fall Winter 2010 by John Galliano, right? The volume makes sense. It's flattering on the model. Like, there's a way to do it that's flattering on the body, and it still looks nice. Like, the whole exaggerated sort of, I'm putting an emphasis on the bows, I just don't think it works at Dior. I really don't think it works. Someone says the problem with this whole collection is the poor styling, but the pieces individually are beautiful. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree that individually a lot of the pieces are really nice. And like I've said, there's a lot of pieces here that, I really, really like. Stuff like this is really cool with the cutout of the skirt. This is stuff that I wish he focuses a lot more on. Also, this kind of last is kind of his Dior last, this kind of shape of shoe with this sort of curve and then a straight line here. I really like this shape. All the shoes that, get made with this shape, I've been a fan of, and he's kind of going to continue using that. So long may it continue. I love that. Playing with sort of evening wear once again. You've got different kinds of tuxedos. You've got pinstripe skirts, the coats. This is the section of the collection I really liked. Like the evening wear, the outer wear. I thought the proportions were actually really nice, and I liked the way that a lot of it was tailored. So yeah, this section, really nice. This, once again, is another version of the bar jacket with the bows. I prefer the one with that was all black or all white, but neither here nor there. It's just, a different colorway. Here, once again, this is a more commercial look with the trousers. Here, same idea, just different colorway with the tulle kind of seeping out of the dress. Not the biggest fan of that, to be honest. Moving on. A big focus on the bags once again. These pieces too, I really liked. Here you can see the bracelets. This is really cool. Is this kind of... Yeah, so it's all a one piece with the kind of this sort of bow detail at the top of the chest, at the neck. That's cool. That's cool. A bow detail at the collar. That's actually really cool. Let me see what guys are saying in the comments. Okay, someone is saying he can do much better. Yeah, I do think though that JW Anderson is slowly building that world, right? So it takes time. It takes time. Now, am I still going to critique the work? Obviously, because it's basically my job. But it takes time, and you can tell that he's world building because all these ideas are kind of just developments from the first collection. So I'm really curious to see where he takes it in future collections, especially because the next collections won't be pre-fall or resort collections. They will be, collections that are taken more seriously, at least in the eyes of fashion people that, see pre-fall collections as filler collections. Um, so yeah, that's the thing. He's got his saddlebags going on. This CD thing, I cannot get with it. I can't champion this CD thing. But I feel like people will buy it though. I feel like it might be that kind of thing that does really well commercially. Because people like to wear things where it's like people know that I'm wearing Dior. That's kind of how most the average customer of luxury brands like that. They don't actually want to wear clothing where you don't know where it's from. This is once again the issue that I have with JW Anderson and the volume of this sort of bow detail on the sides. I'll just put it this way. I don't think this whole exaggerated silhouette works at Dior. End of story. I don't think this like Loewe artsy, surrealist, exaggerated silhouette, it doesn't work at Dior. That's basically what I'll say. I also think there are so many house codes, there are so many aspects to clothing from the Belle Epoque era that JW Anderson can play with. I would like to see him play with a lot more ideas than just the bows. Like, it's too much. It's too much. Damn near every single look has some sort of like bow detail or there's a knot tied somewhere. It's a lot. It is a lot. Moving on, these are kind of just stuff we've already seen in different colorways. This is kind of like JW Anderson for JW Anderson by JW Anderson for Dior, with the knitwear and this kind of like crop here. I don't really know how I feel about this. But once again, I do like the belt with the antique hardware. But yeah, the knitwear, I don't know. I don't know about all of that. Moving on. The petals once again. The jewelry is so nice. The capes, really love the capes. That's once again an idea that I said he's kind of brought forward from the first collections. Yeah, really love the outerwear and the coats. Really, really nice. And then the ultra commercial look. And then we're back to square one. So yeah, that's the collection. I think there are some really interesting pieces in there. There's some really interesting looks. I just think proportionally there's issues that need to be rectified. A lot of the clothing that he's designing at Dior just isn't flattering on the body. It just isn't. And that's why anytime you see someone wearing JW Anderson on the red carpet, they look goofy because of how unflattering the clothing is. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, you have to know what you're designing for, who you're designing for. It's like, there's one thing like doing the whole artistic thing. It's like, comme des garçons, everything. Fashion is art. But then on the red carpet, people cannot be looking like this. People cannot be looking like this on the red carpet. Where's the other infamous one? Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence cannot be looking like this, like with the proportions off like this. Your clients cannot be looking like this. Greta Lee can't be looking like this. So Just the proportions. Just the proportions. But don't they have textile designers? Well, yeah, they. I mean, it's Dior. Like Dior literally has a whole atelier. It's just down to the creative director to decide kind of what ideas he wants and what direction he wants to take the brand and what direction he wants to take the clothing. That has nothing to do with the atelier, to be honest. It's really down to the person leading the atelier more so than the atelier themselves. Because yeah, Dior, they have all the resources in the world, so it's definitely never going to be a resource issue or the fact that they don't have access to the best tailors in the world. They do. Or the fact they don't have access to the best textile designers in the world. They do. It's Dior. Like, let's be for real. It's literally Dior. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on the collection before we move on to the next topic. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Luke says he doesn't even look in the eyes of the people who work for him, so what do you expect? Why are you acting surprised that this looks like shit? Damn, tough crowd. Wait, why did you say he doesn't look into the eyes of the people that work for him? Yeah, I hope the proportions get better. I really wonder about the pieces in person. Yeah. I think here and there, once again, because what I think will sell is like definitely the footwear for starters. So proportions don't really matter when you're selling footwear. I think the jewelry is going to sell. These bags are definitely going to fly off the shelves. I'm not sure. These ones look, I don't know, that it's kind of like, because this Dior all over print, I associate it with like fake bags, and then adding this antique hardware is just not the right bag for it. So I don't know if that bag is going to sell. I'm personally not a fan of it, but the other bags I definitely like. Some stuff like people are probably not going to wear stuff like this. This is more just kind of like a showpiece, world building, that sort of stuff. I think a lot of the outerwear people will buy. People might buy dresses like this. I also think a lot of celebrities are going to wear this. This isn't too bad. This isn't as bad as like some of the stuff we've seen on the red carpet. Like if the right person wears this, it could actually look really good. Someone's saying, yeah, the belts might be stellar, 100%. Could have done a lot more with houndstooth. Yeah, there was that like one houndstooth coat. That was nice. Let's see. Oh, it shows he's the only one that actively refuses to. Oh, damn. I didn't know that he actively refuses to. Luke, can you name your source? Or is it something that you can't say publicly? Like, we need to verify that information. We definitely need to verify that information. It's a type of fabric. What are you talking about? Are you talking about tulle? Like the fabric that's seeping out of the dress. That's tulle. But yeah, it's neither here nor there. Some good ideas. I think because I know what he's referencing. Like I've read about Dior endlessly. Like if you don't even need to look hard. You just go on like well, I have loads of Dior books, but like you can go on like the Met website, for example, and you can look at like all these archived Dior silhouettes, and then you get familiar with all these different lines via Dior, and then you start to see what J.W. Anderson is referencing. It's not like rocket science, but it's like when you start to look at, these kind of silhouettes, and then you look at designers that have, designed for Dior in the past. So I'm talking about, the likes of John Galliano, for example. And you look at the way that their silhouettes actually look, and then you look at the way John Galliano's silhouettes look. Like, even if you really want to take it back, designers like Yves Saint Laurent, for example, designers like, who else has been at Dior? Gianfranco, or who else has been at Dior that I think they had really good? Mark Bohan. I'm trying to think who else. Dior. Bill Gayton, who was there like very briefly. Even Ras Simmons, like Ras Simmons had better proportions at Dior than like what I'm seeing from JW Anderson, and like that's not even Ras Simmons' bag. Like Ras Simmons is not like famous for, making dresses for women. That's not like his claim to fame. So yeah, it's I don't know, the silhouettes, it leaves a lot to be desired. Anyway, moving on. This is a really interesting story that I wanted to talk about because for some reason people aren't really talking about it. Now, if you guys are followers of the streams, you follow the content consistently, you would have actually seen me cover all the times, all the issues of the sweatshops of luxury brands and kind of, the issues that were happening and all those kind of things. Also, just to address this, I mean as like the head designer, not as like chief pattern cutter. So not in terms of like how long he was actually at Dior. In terms of like, I was talking about creative directors. So Bill was only a creative director for like a very short period. But anyway, moving on. So we talked about the sweatshops. We talked about all those issues. And I haven't seen people really cover the fact that the EU has been watering down sustainability rules, and they've actually been watering down sort of like the laws and making it easier for brands to exploit. So it's very funny because we talked about Shein and the fact that it was surprising that Shein was even allowed to have a store in Paris, because we used to think that, France really cared about sustainability and like they would, push against that. But now we're seeing like legislation coming from the EU that is literally allowing brands to get away with more stuff, which is like shocking. We're literally going backwards. So in my notes, I've kind of summarized it, so bear with me. So essentially, what the EU is doing, in a nutshell, is they're shifting to a more business-friendly approach. And when people say they're shifting to a more business-friendly approach, it means we are allowing the companies to control us. It means the companies have power over the government. That's basically what that means. That's the translation. So what has specifically happened is they've watered down two major supply chain accountability laws. So one of the laws is called the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, and the other one is called the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. So what these things do is they require like detailed standardized reporting, whether that's on ESG issues, on emissions, on labor standards, on supply chain risks, on different information in your supply chain. They're supposed to hold companies legally accountable for like environmental and labor abuse across supply chains. They're supposed to implement fines on companies that have these, labor abuse issues. So it's absolutely insane. It's so insane that they are actually relaxing the laws on this. Like, it's so insane. And as you can see, it says here, in a vote that passed with 382 in favor and 249 against, lawmakers approved scaled back versions of the rules, adopting a position that would exempt many companies from compliance and strip out key elements ahead of negotiations to finalize the regulations with European governments. So, once again, this issue is a systematic issue. It's not just the brands, it's the government too. It's literally the government too. It's literally the whole EU. Everyone is all in it together. So when we say that, luxury brands don't have these issues and the government should, implement laws and put laws in place to, block brands from being able to exploit workers, well, actually, the government is actually helping the businesses exploit more workers, which is so insane. Um, and why are we here? It's because politically, there has been a shift, especially in the EU, against like green regulation. There's been more of a political shift to being more business friendly. It's seen that like, especially in the EU, green regulation is almost viewed as harmful to competitiveness in terms of business. And it's too like bureaucratic, which is why they're saying like they want to be more business friendly. That's kind of what they're alluding to. They're also saying that, in their trade talks with the USA, considering like the tariffs and things like this, that the US is also pushing for, warnings about like too many green like laws and too much red tape with all these like green laws could actually get in the way of like the US deals, and like it could disrupt energy supply and like all these different issues. So these are like, there are many different issues as to why like they're becoming a bit more relaxed on businesses. And I think it's going to continue to go in this direction, to be honest. And it really matters because, I mean, we're seeing all these labor violations all over the place, especially in Italy. And the fact that they're relaxing it just means that these brands are just going to get away with it and just continue doing it. Like, they're literally saying that brands are less legally pressured to address their subcontracting practices. Like that. Do you know how insane that is? Do you know how insane that is? It's so insane. Like, let me see what BOF has said. Like they said here, the changes to the EU sustainability regulations reflect a rightward shift in politics over the last 2 years. Green rules have become a bogeyman for business-friendly politicians who argue they tie up European companies in red tape and reduce the region's competitiveness. So basically, in a nutshell, they're like, to be competitive, we need to be able to exploit workers like everyone else. It's basically what they've said. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to talk about it because obviously we're seeing more and more and more stories. Like, for example, this is like a recent story. We're going to continue to see more of these, whether that's, these Prada bags from Chinese sweatshops. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about this. It's kind of, the circumstances of this is very similar to all the other brands that have been seen, using the Chinese sweatshops in Italy. It's kind of like one in the same, like sweatshops raids near Florence. They find 10 Chinese workers being paid less than minimum wage in unlivable working conditions that are illegal. They were told to submit documentation. They're under investigation. They're going to say, oh, but it's a third-party manufacturer, so then they can just, not take any liability. It's the same circumstances, all the other brands that are in the same scandals. But I think we're going to see more and more of these things, especially as the EU becomes more relaxed on the legislation. So yeah, crazy that no one's talking about that. So it's just something I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. Let me see what people are saying about this quickly before I move on to the next topic. At this point, some contemporary brands have better subcontractors than the luxury brands. Yeah, 100% agreed. Completely agreed. Is political lobbying a thing in the EU? Oh yeah, political lobbying is a thing everywhere. It's just that it's not as in your face as it is, let's say, maybe in the US or like other places. But I think political lobbying happens everywhere. Literally. Basically, we're going to end up having to make our own clothes for more and sustainability. Yeah, 100%. I mean, the way things are going, it seems so. Because the thing about the EU was like the last. Because obviously in Asia, there's very lax regulation on like, like labor violation and all that sort of stuff. That's why what happens in Asia happens. Like in factories, people die, whether that's in China or in, Bangladesh, India. Like, so the EU was the place that was supposed to have all the legislation to make sure that it doesn't happen in EU countries. But now that they're kind of almost getting to the point, they're turning a blind eye because they need to be more competitive. So now it's just going to be a worldwide issue. Literally. That's literally what's going to happen. So yeah. Now the last thing I wanted to talk about today, guys, is Marty Supreme. Because I feel like Marty Supreme has been everywhere. Everyone is talking about it. Am I going to watch it on the release date? Yes. It's coming out in the UK in cinemas in 2 days on the 26th of December. And I already have my tickets booked to go see it in the cinema. So I will be seeing the film in 2 days. I'm definitely looking forward to it. But I just want to talk about Marty Supreme because I think the rollout is interesting to talk about, like how they've embedded fashion into it and kind of how it's become a cultural moment. And I also think that it'll be interesting to see kind of how that translates to the box office of the film. So for people that don't know what Marty Supreme is or what we're talking about, so Marty Supreme is a film where the main character is played by Timothée Chalamet, and essentially it's supposed to be this sort of like gifted but highly reckless ping pong player that's also this hustler from New York. And, he's navigating the underground system of like illegal betting and backroom ping pong tournaments. And it kind of follows his journey, but also the journey of really eccentric characters that are part of this sort of ping pong underworld, if you have you. So that's kind of like the thing. I think it's a very interesting proposition because it's an A24 film. Now, if you guys don't know about like A24 is a production house that normally deals with indie films. They don't deal with these like massive blockbuster films. In fact, this film feels like a blockbuster film. It almost doesn't feel like it's an A24 film because of like the crazy rollout. So I like A24 films because the themes tend to be a bit more deep. They tend to be a bit more interesting. They give, more creative freedom to a lot of the filmmakers, the directors, and also with A24 films, they tend to be low budget, which means that it's less about elaborate, effects, and it's more about like the acting performances. So yeah, someone is saying A24 is not indie. It's indie compared to like a lot of other production houses, if we can put it that way. But this actually, Marty Supreme, from some of the research I did, is actually one of the highest budget A24 films. So they're gambling a lot. They're really, really gambling on this film. Also, you have other people starring. There's many big people starring. Tyler, the Creator, is actually starring in this film, which is going to be important as we talk about the rollout because, he also had sort of like a clothing release via Golf Wang. So it seems like everyone is cashing out on the whole Marty Supreme thing going on. So anyway, so to talk about the rollout, which I think has been very, very interesting. Obviously, they've been launching trailers. But the first thing I really saw as far as this rollout goes is this Zoom call. So Timothée Chalamet posted on his Instagram this makeshift Zoom call that's supposed to look like them sort of planning out the rollout of the film. And people thought initially that he leaked it by mistake, or it was kind of like a leak of their meeting, but actually no, it's just like part of the campaign. But that was really interesting, and I thought that was really smart because it's such a smart way to get people talking, and it was like the talk of the internet. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, did you see that Zoom call? Did you see the leak?" And it like really wasn't a leak. It was literally like just a campaign Zoom call. So that was really cool. I thought that was cool. Then they obviously started launching merch for Marty Supreme. This merch was actually in collaboration with this brand, which was really cool. I think it's also in line with this brand because my understanding is that this brand, they kind of take inspiration from like surf culture and skate culture and hip hop. So it's kind of very in line with like when you think of Marty Supreme is about ping pong, but also the underbelly world of New York City and kind of like the grit and grime of, you know, New York. So that kind of is in line with like skate culture in New York and in line with hip hop culture in New York. So that's kind of where, you know, they were drawing parallels. I do personally think it's a bit of a stretch. I think there's more authentic ways to do that, but that's what they went with. So anyway, if you go on the Marty Supreme Instagram page, you can literally see like all the different stuff that they've been releasing and all the different stuff they've been doing as part of the press run. They went to 3 different cities to have clothing drops. They had a clothing drop in London, they had a clothing drop in New York, and I believe they had a clothing drop in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, I think. So those have been like major touch points, and it's been absolute mayhem in each place because people have been trying to resell the jackets. There's so much hype around the film, so there's a lot of hype around the jackets, and it feels like back to the like Supreme days. I mean, like look at stuff like this, for example. You have people being crushed for Marty Supreme jackets. The hype is insane.
Pop up in London with 2 people who've just got the jacket. How long did you guys have to wait for this jacket?
We started queuing at 7 a.m. So what time is it?
It's like
about half
1
12,
p.m. is it?
maybe?
Yeah.
You do the maths.
Quite a while.
Quite a while, yeah.
yeah.
A lot of hours, yeah, a lot of time.
Yeah. And why did you want this jacket?
I'm a massive fan of Timothy. Starting off because of Call Me By Your Name, I'm like obsessed with that film. But now obviously after seeing all the promo on TikTok, I'm obsessed with just everything about it, and I like the look of it as well. I think it's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, it's just like I love film. I love anything film, and like Marty Supreme looks absolutely insane, and the marketing for this film has been unbelievable, and the jackets.
Just the people, the turnout today, like
yeah,
incredible.
Like the emotion Timothy Chalamet has, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Too much aura.
Totally. It's like a throwback to like an old Supreme Palace drop from back in the day.
Yeah.
Like getting everyone together. It's
Yeah,
so
100%.
So
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And favourite Timothy Chalamet performance?
Call Me By Your Name for me always will be. It's just my favourite film of all time. I visited Crema where it was filmed 3 times, so
Wow.
I go every year.
Yeah.
I love that place. I adore that place. It's beautiful.
Beautiful boy. I love him in Beautiful Boy, honestly.
So you can see there's a lot of like hype. People were queuing out for the jackets. People have been fighting worldwide for the jackets. It's been like very limited. People are reselling them for a lot of money. You also have like Timothy Chalamet is posting like his different drop-offs and stop-offs during his press tour. So this is stuff from like Brazil, when he was in Brazil. And Brazil gave us one of the most cringe moments I've personally seen from Timothy Chalamet, where he went to Brazil and started doing the Soldier Boy Crank That. This part of Timothy Chalamet, this whole like wigger version of Timothy Chalamet has really confused me because I don't know what Crank That Soldier Boy has to do with a press run of a ping pong film. But you know, his fans have been letting him get away with absolute murder on the internet, and he's turned into a new school wigger in front of all of our eyes. I don't know what is. I don't even know what's going on here. And that's kind of what he's been doing. He's been dressing like he's part of a 90s rap group as part of the press run. I don't really know what all of that is about, to be honest. I don't really see the correlation between that and, Marty Supreme, the film. But I guess once I watch the film, maybe it'll make more sense. But he's doing all these things. I will say that he's also had like really interesting activations with the film. This is also, there was a Golf Wang Marty Supreme release, obviously designed by Tyler. So you kind of have this little like Marty Supreme themed collection via Golf Wang. So it seems as though everyone is really cashing out on the hype of Marty Supreme, and everyone is making an absolute bag, and everyone is, cashing out, and just, I might as well start my own Marty Supreme merch as well. You also have these other activations, like different tennis tournaments, and them making them Marty Supreme, table tennis tournaments, and them being like Marty Supreme themed. So I will commend him. I will say that his press run has been one of the most interesting press runs in recent time. He took over the Sphere in Vegas and turned it into a Marty Supreme ping pong ball. That was really cool. He's also, and I think what people have been talking about the most is he had this song with SD Kid, right? Now, for context, people were saying Tyler's merch will make sense when you watch the film. Okay, when I watch the film, like I said, a lot of these things, they might make more sense when I watch the film. But this was really interesting. Now, do I ever want to hear Timothée Chalamet rap ever again? No. Do I think he's a good rapper? No. But I think from a marketing standpoint, if I'm going to separate myself from that, having this song with SD Kid literally broke the internet. It quite literally broke the internet. For people that don't know who SD Kid is, because a lot of you might not know who he is. So SD Kid is a rapper that has gone really famous on TikTok over the past, let me say, like 3 or 4 months. He's part of like a new group of like, let me say, like buzzing and really fast growing UK underground rappers. There's like a whole scene of UK underground rappers that I don't have the time to go into right now, but he's like one of the more prominent ones. And he's actually from Liverpool. So I think a big reason why he's been able to go so famous on TikTok and why SD Kid has become so famous is because like people are really intrigued by his accent, because people aren't used to it. I think a lot of people that aren't from the UK just think that the UK is London. They don't understand that, there's major cities across the UK like Manchester and Birmingham and Leeds and Liverpool and Newcastle, and they all have different accents. So I think people are more fascinated with SD Kid's accent, and it's kind of like become a meme, but also kind of like people really like his music. It's kind of like all of that all in one. So that's kind of why he's blown up. Then it became a rumor online that SD Kid was actually Timothée Chalamet, because SD Kid always wears like a mask or balaclava. So people don't actually know what SD Kid looks like in real life. At least I don't. So people started spreading a rumor that, SD Kid is actually Timothée Chalamet's alter ego, and it's Timothée Chalamet that's behind SD Kid. So during this press run for Marty Supreme, every single interview, they keep asking Timothée Chalamet, are you SD Kid? Are you SD Kid? And obviously he's saying no. So for him to finally, at the end of the press run, have a song with SD Kid, it was kind of just like, it made sense commercially. It like made sense for that to happen. It like, I don't think anyone expected it, because, SD Kid is actually like a serious rapper, and Timothée Chalamet is like an actor that's, become a wigger overnight. So the whole thing is just really fascinating, to be honest. Luke says London is the only English city worth going to. Everywhere else is a flop. But elitism much. Elitism much. Sounding like a lot of elitism there. So yeah, I think a lot of the success of SD Kid, apart from I think he's a good rapper, is people are just really fascinated with his accent and people don't really understand what he's saying, and it's kind of opened up a can of worms on TikTok, being like, have you heard of SD Kid? What's his accent? Where is he from? What's Liverpool? Is that a city? Where is that? So it's kind of opened that can of worms, and I think that's kind of what has created the intrigue and the interest in his music. You guys are still arguing about Birmingham. You guys are absolutely killing me. So yeah, I think it's been a really, really interesting press run. I find it so insane. And I also find it interesting that a lot of other films haven't tried to leverage fashion as part of their press run. And I think this might be a really strong blueprint in terms of what, you know, movies should do moving forward to kind of create intrigue, to kind of make collections and create hype and have like a whole, you know, multiple month-long press run where you're doing these different activations, and that way you can kind of create so much intrigue. It's also a way to kind of get an Oscar, because it then creates so much hype. Even if the, you know, even if the film is like mid, people just say it's good because they're so like they're so blinded by how good the press run has been that they're just like, oh, the movie was amazing, the press run, everything about it was so good. So I think this is if Timothée Chalamet doesn't get an Oscar for this, then I don't know what to say. Considering the press run, I just feel like it's only right, and the fact it's A24 as well is even more of a reason why. When have the Kardashians ever had this kind of rollout? Never. Literally never. Luke said all of this and he'll still lose that Oscar, rightly. Luke, why are you so harsh on Timothée Chalamet? What did Timothée Chalamet do to you? He does make me cringe when he does the wigger stuff, but I think he's a good actor. I'm a big fan of him as an actor. I think he's really good. I like his acting. Personally, I just think the wigger stuff is a bit too much for me personally. I love some of the haters. Club Chalamet will explode if he still loses the Oscar. Mid actors get Oscars all the time. That is true, to be honest. That is very, very true. Very, very true. The Skims, the wigger stuff gotta go. So yeah, I just found the whole thing really interesting, and I also find it so funny how, like, obviously when people are critiquing Timothée Chalamet for like all of a sudden remembering that he's from New York and like doing all this wigger stuff, and then his friends are like, God forbid a white guy has motion. Like, the stuff like this, for example, is hilarious. Like the caption, God forbid a white guy has a little bit of motion. I think that whole discourse, I found it really funny. I found it really, really hilarious. I don't know about the Oscar, but I'm curious to see if future films will take notes on the PR rollout. Yeah, obviously they can't copy it, because if they start copying it, then it doesn't hit the same. So if they do the exact same thing, similar activations, you know, they start trying to do similar fashion collect, it's not going to work. People are just going to be like, it just looks like a Marty Supreme rollout. So they kind of have to just find more creative ways to do it their own way. But I'm just saying that I can't remember the last time that a film had this strong of a press run. Like, I genuinely cannot remember the last time that people were talking this much about a film before it came out and there was this much hype around the film, to the point where I'm like, I need to see this film now. I'm going to book my tickets to go to the cinema, literally. So Oppenheimer was hyped, to be fair, but they weren't talking about it this much. For shame, Wigger Timmy worked on me. I'm seeing the movie tomorrow. Wigger Timmy has people in a chokehold. Wigger Timmy. So the Barbie press run was also really good. I'd have to agree with you there. Barbie did have a really good press run, but I don't think it was as strong as Marty Supreme though. But they did have a good press run. People were talking about the film a lot before it came out. Yeah, Oppenheimer wasn't overhyped, but it was hyped. It definitely was hyped. It definitely was hyped. This rollout was very A24 coded, X-hype piece. Hopefully you enjoy the film. Would be a shame if you don't. How many of you guys have seen the film that are, watching? Don't spoil it, please, but how many of you have seen the film and what did you think? Now, if you've seen the film already, because I know some people have gone to like the premiere and stuff, what would you rate it out of 10 if you've seen it? Okay, people are saying they haven't seen it yet. I love great marketing runs, ads that get people talking, make company/deliverables feel more human, but not Gucci's the type. Let me see if there's anyone in the chat who has actually watched the film. Okay, everyone is saying they haven't. No interest in Marty. I just like the plot of it. It's different. It's like ping pong underworld. That is so like different. That's such a different plot. Luke, you've seen it. What did you think out of 10? Okay, via an illegal link. What did you think out of 10? I saw the film preview in NYC and it's 10 out of 10. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I need to know if I need to get my hopes up or not. Also, Canuck Catwalk, thank you very much for being an OG Urban. I really appreciate you. It's another bro movie about an insufferable man who tramples on other people to get what he wants. Interesting. Alpha male Sigma coded. I mean, I know, because obviously I've read about the film, but I haven't read reviews yet, because obviously spoilers. But yeah, I kind of know like the plot is along those lines anyway, because it's like he's supposed to be this sort of like reckless hustler, like sort of person. He's supposed to be like this bad boy, kind of going into like illegal betting and backroom ping pong tournaments and like. So I know it's along those lines. Because I know when I looked at some of the, like Wolf of Wall Street wannabe, exactly. Because when I looked at some of the ways that they were describing his character, they were saying things like ego, hunger for validation. Those are the kind of things that they were using to describe the character. One of the guys from Shark Tank is in it. Really? I just never knew ping pong was ever this serious. Apparently it is. I wonder if they should have sold like really elaborate stuff like Marty Supreme ping pong tables and all that sort of stuff. That would have been like collectible items, like the way Supreme used to make stupid things like e-bikes and inflatable boats and stuff, like bricks, just stuff for the sake of making stuff. It's crazy that ping pong has a gritty underbelly. I think every sport probably has a gritty underbelly. Now, obviously, I don't know if ping pong actually has a gritty underbelly, but I would assume it does because it's like, I mean, even when I was younger, I would see people bet on ping pong games. and then people would like get beaten up because like it gets heated and people lose like a lot of money and then it gets heated. At which point I take my leave before people start fighting. So no, I can imagine that in some parts of the world there are big underbellies for every sport, whether that's, you know, ping pong or even snooker or anything, to be honest. Chess. I'm sure like chess has an underbelly. People are betting away their futures on chess games. So yeah. Someone said, so is it back to being called ping pong? I thought we switched it to calling it table tennis. To be honest, I've always kind of just thought that, you know, there were different things entirely. Right? Am I wrong? Wait, let me Google it. Table tennis versus ping pong. Table tennis and ping pong are essentially the same game, but table tennis refers to the serious Olympic level sport with strict rules and pro gear, while ping pong is the casual recreational version with simpler equipment like sandpaper paddles and less formal rules, focusing on fun over competition. So there we go. If you're a professional, then it's table tennis. If you're not, it's ping pong. So I guess in this case, it would be ping pong because obviously it's like an illegal underbelly sort of vibe. Just think of how sports are portrayed in anime. I'm sure any sport can get crazy. Yeah, totally agreed. Totally agreed. Put your life savings on D7. Well, this branding is way better than that horrible Vogue cover they gave Timmy. Yeah, so imagine, right? This is what I don't understand about like Vogue these days and how just like uninspiring Vogue, especially modern Vogue, is these days. If you think of like the press rollout for Marty Supreme and everything that they've been doing, and then you compare that to the Vogue cover, it's like almost everything they've done with Marty Supreme is like more visually interesting than Vogue. And Vogue is supposed to be, they're supposed to be like arbiters of taste. They're supposed to be arbiters of culture. Clearly not anymore though. But yeah, and they had all these different celebrities. You've got Kid Cudi wearing the Marty Supreme merch. So they kind of just Tom Brady. Did someone say they unfollowed because of Tom Brady? Tom Brady, no thanks, unfollowed. Okay, because people are saying what he did to Giselle. What did Tom Brady do to Giselle? Am I missing something? Wait, what did Tom Brady... This is how you know I don't really know much about celebrities. Guys in the chat, what did Tom Brady do to Giselle? I had no idea. He chose not to retire. Okay. Oh, the Messi divorce. Oh, I thought it was something else. So my understanding is that Tom Brady retired from the NFL because he said that he was going to focus on his family or something like that. Like he was going to... Like, he always put his career first, and he finally retired to spend time with his family, and then after, like, a few months, he, like, came back out of retirement, and that's kind of why she divorced him, because she just felt like he wasn't spending enough time with the family. I don't know, man. I just think it just means they're not compatible, because it's like... I find that kind of weird. I don't know. I find that weird. It's like, you married an NFL player. Like, if someone is an NFL player, obviously their life revolves around playing football. Like American football, right? That's like their life. Like, how do you not understand that or realize that? So I always think that like a lot of people, whether that's like celebrities or not celebrities, they're not very mature. So like, not to say I know Giselle like personally or Tom Brady personally, but I don't know why they would, get married and all that sort of stuff if there was like that underlying issue of like, oh, your life revolves around American football? Of course he does. He's an American football player. Like, are people saying Giselle cheated on him with his trainer or something? That's crazy. That's crazy. That's what I'm saying. Like, just, why are you gonna cheat? It's like, just, I don't know, man. Anyway, moving on. Marty Supreme. I don't want to talk about celebrity relationships. That's their business. But yeah, just how interesting. You've even got like Tyler, obviously pushing it, obviously wearing some of the merch too. Supreme is so back. It honestly feels like a Supreme drop. Honestly, it really does. Yeah, exactly. Okay, people are still talking. Yeah, why get with the number one player if you're not willing to get in the field? Just date a DE on the safety squad if you want time with family. Yeah, like, I don't even know much about American football, but I know, like, if you're a quarterback, your life has to revolve around a sport because you have to know all the plays as a quarterback. You have to, like, know everything that's going on. You have to be a leader. You have to, like, it's just, yeah. Some people just don't know what they want. Some people just don't have the maturity level to understand what they're getting themselves into. And I think sometimes we pedestalize, can't even speak, celebrities because we're celebrities. And we just assume that because they're celebrities, they're like mature or they have their life together. But they're just as clueless as us. They are. And they don't actually know what they want. We've even got Michael Phelps on the press run in this Marty Supreme match. But yeah, I've absolutely enjoyed it. I have absolutely enjoyed the press rollout. Anyway, after hours, guys. What questions do you have for me before I take my leave and spend my Christmas Eve with my family? If you have any questions. Okay, you guys are talking about Aisha Curry. Yes, I'm growing my hair. I get you can tell. You can tell. Did you discuss Timothy and Kylie wearing the orange matching chrome hearts? Since orange is the movie branding color. I didn't want to touch on it because, like, I don't, like, everyone in fashion has talked about that specific thing. I really wanted to talk about the film itself. And I just don't like talking about, like, Jenner Kardashians. I can't do it. I can't do it. But yeah, it was a big talking point though. It was a big talking point. Let's see. What creative director are you most excited about for the upcoming season? Let me have a look at the calendar. 1 second. Because I know the calendar is up, but I haven't even had a chance to look at it yet. I've been so busy. Let me have a look. Paris Fashion Week schedule. Let's see. Provisional calendar. Okay, let's have a look. Okay. Nothing of note so far. I mean, I like Egon Lab. I always like to see what Egon Lab are doing. I like Kartik Research. Kiko on the cover. I mean, to be honest, I'm going to Paris Fashion Week, but I wouldn't say like obviously I'm interested in like what these brands are doing, but I wouldn't say like any of these collections I'm like looking forward to it. Where it's like let me go through the list again. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm probably looking forward to Jews Unnoten because I've been a big fan of what Julian Klausner is doing at the brand. So I'm actually quite excited to see how he continues to build the Jews Unnoten world. I mean, Willie had a really interesting show last time. That should be good to see what Willie does this season. I used to love Comme des Garçons en Plus, but they don't, not anymore, because it's just not to my taste anymore, personally. Going on, I mean, I love Kiko. Undercover depends on the season. Color depends on the season. I do like Ziggy Chan, to be honest. Big fan of Ziggy Chan. I was at their show last Paris Fashion Week, and that show is really good. Sakai can be cool, depending on the season. Post Sakai Faction, depending. That's interesting that Jacques Mus is closing there. Normally, like, Jacques Mus likes to show off schedule because Jacques Mus likes to have shows in insane remote locations that it takes everyone so long to get there. Someone said genuine until I die. No, Grace Osbono is not showing for a very long time. Like, she's not... I don't even think she's showing a collection to, like, 2027 or, like, even further than that. Yeah, I'm a Yoji fanboy, but I wouldn't say, like, I'm excited for every new Yoji collection. It's just not... Like, I love the aesthetic, and I know I can expect that with every collection. Is basically the vibe I get from Yoji. Can we chit-chat about the Beckham family for a bit? Oh my god, you guys love gossip. So, I don't really know what's going on with the Beckham family, to be very honest. I just know that... This is how you know I'm not that tapped in with, like, celebrity culture, but by virtue of being online all the time, I kind of see things... So my understanding is that someone blocked someone. I don't know who blocked who. I know someone in the Beckham family is like estranged. Who is it again? Who is it? Who's the estranged Beckham? I've forgotten. Okay, so it was Brooklyn that blocked everyone. Okay, there we go. What was the reason that he blocked everyone? You talked about an indie festival, the person you recommend. I booked out my laptop and shit. Are you talking about Beyond Noise? The last time I remember like really championing a magazine was probably Beyond Noise magazine. It might be that one. I think it's Beyond Noise. Okay, people are saying it was Brooklyn. Okay, wait. Brooklyn got married to his sugar mama's wife, Nicole. Wait, Brooklyn got married to his sugar mama wife, Nicole. I don't even know who is Nicole. Guys, explain this to me like I don't know who any of these people are. Who is Nicole? Okay, so his wife and his mom don't vibe together. Okay, so Victoria doesn't get on with his wife. I'm so confused. I'm so confused. Okay, supposedly they don't like the wifey. Oh, okay, so Brooklyn wants to marry a woman who he loves but doesn't get on with his mum. So he's mad that his family isn't getting on with the woman he wants to marry. So because of it, there's friction in the family, and therefore he's blocked everyone in the family. Okay. That's some like spoiled brat, rich Nepo baby kind of shit. That's some like rich Nepo baby kind of drama kind of stuff. Okay, so Brooklyn's already married her. Oh, okay. Okay. This is how you know I'm not in touch with the Beckham fan. I didn't even know Brooklyn was married, to be honest. When did Brooklyn get married? I'm too fashion pilled for these kind of topics. Do your parents have to approve who you're with? Yes and no. I mean, it depends on how you're seeing it. So I would consider myself mature. I'm sure everyone does. But I think my parents are a good parameter in terms of vetting if I was to get married, because my parents have been happily married for like over 30 years. So there's clearly stuff that they know and they will see that I won't see. So I might ask them, like, what do you think? Because they have a certain level of wisdom that I don't have. But it's not... If they say, like, we don't like the person, which is that my parents aren't like that anyway, they're not going to dislike someone unless you give them a really good reason to dislike the person. So that's not going to happen. So even if they're like, oh, we're not too sure about this or that, I'll take it on board. Then it's up to me to decide if like that's grounds to not get married to the person, or I'm still going to get married to the person. It's not complicated. I feel like, yeah, celebrity, all that sort of stuff, it just gets really complicated really fast. Pre-blocking, even in the family photos, you can see how she never stays close to Victoria. And at the wedding, J-Lo's ex-husband called Victoria the most beautiful woman, which Nick liked. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, same. I'm used to Brooklyn being a girl's name. Yeah, every single Brooklyn I know personally is a girl, to be fair. Oh, so Brooklyn Beckham's wife, her dad owns Madison Square Garden. Who is this person? Wait. Brooklyn Beckham wife. Nicola Pelt. Okay. And her dad is Nelson Pelt. Okay. Oh, so her dad's like a full-on like billionaire. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, this kind of drama is beyond my pay grade. Someone said, oh, she's a Capricorn. I've seen Cruz Beckham in person and he looked ratty, very homeless. Interesting. Any other more serious topics? I'm still confused about this Beckham drama. Like, I'm actually still confused. Yeah. Yeah, this is literally the first time I've heard of this person ever. When did they get married? Is this recent? August. Okay, yeah, that's probably why I don't know. Like, when it comes to celebrity news, it takes me like a good year to get up to date on stuff like this. So yeah, if they got married in August, there's no way I would have known. Like, yeah. Phoebe Gates has a fashion startup called Fia. Never heard of it. Let's have a look. Phoebe Gates. Okay. Fiaco. Oh god. Please don't tell me it's mid. Fiaco. Oh, okay, it's not bad. It's like a tech thing. Okay, that's not bad. I thought it was gonna be some like shitty brand. Oh no, this is cool. This is cool. This is cool. This is cool. This is actually cool. This is cool. I I thought it was going to be some stupid brand. No, this is actually really cool. This is cool. This is cool. Yeah, like a web extension. That's not, but I mean, I don't need it. I'm not gonna use it, but that's kind of cool. At least it's not some shitty brand. Because every nepo baby, every kid that like has never had to work a day in their life, their idea of work is like, I'm like an entrepreneur, I'm like a businesswoman, I'm a businessman, and like, you know, nepo kids how they talk. I'm like a businessman. I work so everyone says like all my money is from my parents, but I actually work so hard. I work so hard. You guys just don't understand. Like everyone says like all my wealth is from my parents, but like not really. Can we start a eugenics program but for nepo babies? Oh gosh. That's funny. Kate Moss's daughters, guys. I don't know who these people are. I know who Lila Moss is because obviously she's modeled. So by covering fashion, I'll kind of know who she is, but I don't know her personally. I don't know her character, so I can't really speak to that. Yeah. But I mean, to be honest, most of these like LA, especially the LA girls and LA guys, a lot of them I've heard are like horrible to be around. They're like really, really pretentious. So yeah, not my swag, not my speed. Top 3 fashion stories of 2025. Oh, that's a tough one because I have to think about that one. Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure, guys. Anyway, guys, I'm going to take my leave now. This is getting really random. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please follow me on Twitch if you haven't already, because when I go live, Twitch notifications are really good for when I go live. If you have a Spotify premium account, you can watch the streams back via Spotify. And on that note, I shall be seeing you guys in the next stream, guys. I shall be seeing you guys in the next stream. Merry Christmas for tomorrow and Merry Christmas Eve for today.